As we continue our conversation, being ordinary for those who are in the enlightenment soul age group and who are enlightening completely, it is because of the mental, emotional, and physical intelligence that you embody. So that's called healthy self worth, and that is because you are actively a mindful, self aware, accountable, regulating person. That's why self help spiritually and secularly, but you have a 5D mystic here, so we're always going to have spiritual stuff in our conversations, but that's why these practices support you. And it's also why inner and outer well being are of the utmost, why not, interest of you. So, first, let's begin with this capacity to know ordinary comes with a button called love. So, you own your 1 year old, you own your 3 year old, you own your child parts, you own your implicit and explicit biases. You own your implicit and explicit memories. You own all that comes up and you don't project it. Adaptive child behavior patterns, as well as maladaptive child behavior patterns, they are narrow states of consciousness that project. Particularly, they have the defectiveness shame button at the bottom. So the angry teenager is vengeful, spiteful, a lot of more things. This isn't Lucifer we need to blame. No, it is actively people who could go to therapy and they could begin a journey, but it is one that is very painful. So the gut wrench, torn apart defectiveness is what keeps them in these areas. And then there's also this. Where are you, Pat Ogden? The first trauma is the actual abuse. The secondary trauma is not having support. So because patterns of behavior will be quite unpleasant, imagine people basically trusting someone who is kind less and actively making them from good to evil because of split black and white thinking, which is where the borderline personality disorder group has abandonment and rejection as one of those core wounds, and they actively don't see partners as partnerships, but they see them as battlefields. They actively, in the moments of calm, get hypervigilant and want to create stuff, and they do. And then when they have basically made amends, okay, you've passed my test. But this implicit behavior is maladaptive. So once you have your lens, that's when, like with our lovely Kylie, she reacted with split and black and white thinking when her fiance, I think is now the word, because they are actively a couple. Well, I don't know if he proposed actually, but I do know he told her she's the one. And when he did, she split and she threw everything out. She kicked him out. She's like, no, I'm not. And I don't know how, I don't remember all the details, but long story short, she realized she split because she's with a good therapist. And eventually she reached back out. He saved all her stuff because he's a sociopath who's healing. So he also knew. They both know and work with good therapists. Okay, so perception. It is all about, do you know your solo self, your sense of self, your narrative, relational, your core self? The people who have a shame button, they think of being ordinary as something bad. They feel it as something bad because they have not yet welcomed their whole self home. And if they don't get to good therapy, they won't, because they actively, I see the 7 to 14 charming. They're all human beings who have grandiosity, narcissism, not to mention a bunch more. And it's not because of those words, it's because they have a shame button. So while they think that they can profess biblical text to you, look fancy and pretty, and get eloquent, which is why in the late HP show I told you about how it's bullshit. The whole let me be proper, let me sit here, because I've met these human beings who apparently are facades. And well, let me tell you, the only people who bullshit, basically they're bullshitting, are the same ones who also can use a good therapist, because that's the number one thing. I ain't trying to copy you. I have my own personality. And you're saying stuff that doesn't make sense to my brain and my heart. Yes, actively, when you tell me humanity has no goodness or kindness, you're talking about yourself. And I wonder who told you that. Sadhguru, everything in existence is the same energy, manifesting itself in a million different ways. A 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, an actual divine feminine, can tell you we know this. It's why we don't have a saga or a drama with our twin flame, or flames, or soulmates. We also don't go around talking about our spirituality awakening and Kundalini awakening with words like ego death, dark night of the soul. I have gone through hell and back. I mean, we can go through hell and back, yes, but it won't be actively held back. So we use words to talk, but not to label. I mean, the ears that can hear will know that difference. Okay, so that's the part of where IHP will call to people who know how to hear, because we talk about human kindness, compassion, and those who don't have it, because fundamentally every part of the brain is affected by trauma. Bessel van der Kolk, thank you, that they, once they're self-aware, accountable, and regulating, they are welcoming themselves home, like Kylie and her boyfriend. And our perception is that we welcome open arms, and we can work with whatever their lens is once they know their lens. That's why a Cusco who's finally saying the truth to Pacha, I want to live next to you, but you know, these manners and these habits I have, well, I still have them. So can you be patient with me? Do we want to, hang out and da da da? And that's consistently. The frequency of perception supports our natural curiosity, moving us beyond our comfort zone to find the edges of what we perceive as real and to take a good, hard, deep look at it. And when you know that the frequency of transition supports our deep understanding of the ever changing nature of existence and our lives, so that we can learn to let go, surrender to the process, and allow transition to occur with ease and grace. Transition, let me grab the card so you can see it. It's really nice. It's pretty. Here is actively what you're always getting the opportunity to do, but that's if you're a Fibonacci brain. That's why some of us don't feel changed. Let me grab these actively. So you, from perception transition, can move into dynamism. The frequency of dynamics supports our ability to harmonize between layers and aspects of different origin and frequency. It helps us to put together a reality that is made up of many different elements, both familiar and completely new, with ease, grace, and great joy. You can do this only once you delight in you, okay, and then you delight also in others. The frequency of delight supports our capacity to create and experience feelings of intense joy and happiness. The more delight we feel, the more delight we evoke in others, but they have to delight in themselves. And so when you have people who are not delighting in their self, they will not delight in their self just because you delight in them. In fact, you can tell them they're the one, and they will react like Kylie did, again, without knowing it. No, Kylie knew it. And so Kylie knew, and then her boyfriend knew. And so here's where, even if I don't know, and I'm a person, though, who is in that being ordinary, enlightened, and therefore, again, the intelligence is, I'm a human, you're human. Like Pacha tells Cusco, you have a heart. So with that understanding, those who are functional adults and in that restorative embodiment, self-aware, we get to heal trauma one person at a time, one relationship at a time, because we maintain being a safe haven, secure base for each other. And that maladaptive and or adaptive child behavior pattern, when people get people who are consistent communicators, they will understand what that is, and they will be able to navigate your space, and you'll be able to navigate their space. And so this is why we find that all of our relationships are beautiful. They have their splinters. We repair splinters because that's exactly how it works, and ruptures between loved ones. Our oversoul expands. Once your life is an expression of your blissfulness, you will not be in conflict with anyone. And so people don't have conflict when it comes to renewing past connections, when it comes to fruitfulness of all of us working together. We like to be a herd, like Manny, Diego, and Sid. We get open communication, and that's because we have a throat chakra that shares what is on our heart and our mind openly. That's because being ordinary, again, I'm Maria, who are you? The frequency of the throat chakra supports our self-expression and our sense of peace and balance. So it's when you can say, even vulnerably, even knowing, oh shit, Eric, I got a tail, I'm a mermaid. Are you gonna welcome me? If Eric doesn't welcome you, it's okay. Polyamory community. If someone doesn't welcome you, man, woman, might you be, it's okay. If you have healthy self-worth, you won't be offended when they say, so I can kiss you, so I can fuck you, so you're a masochist, so you're traumatized. You'll be like, oh, that's so funny. You have a lot of unanswered questions, I see. So it's funny when you tell people, about a person not being a masochist because they have healthy self-worth, and they're like, but that's hard. And you're like, wow, job, apparently living life, therapy, anyone? And then coming to continue with mindful and mindsight and mindset practices to continue being an ordinary human being that's not fucked up, because our emotions, we're not fucked up. You actively don't suffer once you're in a good relationship with your prefrontal cortex. I don't know suffering. I don't do the temporal junction. I don't ruminate. I actively use this because I have no trauma charges, because I don't have low self esteem. So I don't project my emotions or my thoughts onto another person. But I have a twin, so I learned how to share, you know, and how to communicate. So communication, it supports our ability to exchange information in many different forms, and it reminds us to run every piece of information, both incoming and outgoing, through our heart, the center of our truth, to stay in the flow of source and balanced exchange. Source is that feminine, and it's the essence of love and life, which you access when you have an integrated brain. Integration of the brain means your left and right work together as friends, and you don't have this thing of humans are unkind because they chose it. You have no need to talk about New Age mystics as Luciferian, or any one of us who's cursing and doing, our fancy prancy stuff. So those people who judge a book by its cover, yeah, they are actively uninteresting. They're actively shameful because they have shame inside of them, and they are actively adaptive child and children who can be maladaptive or not, who use their mouth eloquently. Then they get all dressed up the way they were taught to be proper, like a child, but with, so that's that feminine that doesn't actively lead a masculine to source, but actively takes you away. Where is that? Let me get the Cherokee proverb. And the people who can tell are the ones who own their feminine. It means you own your inner child. It means that your ears are like, something's off with you. That's because you're not mesmerized by it. If you're mesmerized, you're saying, oh, I want to be just like them when I grow up. There's our adaptive child. And that is why a feminine will notice who those pretend feminines are, and we will mind our own business, though, because those masculines will, like any of the Lost Boys with Peter Pan, like any teenager who follows a teenager who's not a smart human being at all, well, that's why, again, donkeys, they end up becoming, for a person like me, that's all I'm going to see is a big donkey and the smaller donkeys who have nothing that they're hearing, because if they were, they'd realize their inconsistencies in so many ways. It's not even funny. That's the part. But Pachas, we don't lecture Cuscos. They are actively, as Stephen Porges points out, a person that is in their safety behavior, which is what an adaptive child behavior is, the pattern. You're in your shame cycle. I already know if I poke you, you're just going to get more of your teenager attitude. And I don't personally want to poke anyone. I actively like to leave the room and to disengage, which is why we're happy that they don't text us back. Human being man, who made me aware of how a man, after done fucking me, will feel contempt, disgust towards me. Oh, as I'm watching it, I'm waiting for the pitch line. And then they say shame. And my only question was, is it shame towards me or themselves? Because obviously you didn't think about telling them to go to good therapy and get themselves into good therapy. And you obviously need therapy, and you're not in it actively. Excuse me. You are one of them who thinks you have it all figured out. Yeah, you do, Cusco. Keep on living the life with your nice suits. Like Venus, the goddess of May, I should put you together. And as she tells you, ladies, come on over, come on over. Make sure to remember, if they fuck you, now, remember, they don't think of wedding bells. And I'm like, wow. And they all giggled together. And I'm like, I guess you got talked to like that, huh? Somebody must have told you some information, child. That is not accurate. I don't know who told you this shit, but also you're not a piece of meat, FYI. And make sure to choose consciously who you share your body with, not because of the ancient times, please. Oh my gosh, do I have humor in my brain right now. So, a woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul so as to unite him with source. So people think the ancient textbooks means be. In fact, I've seen this man talk to you about being celibate or whatever else he's doing, Franciscine. I'm like, wow, you obviously don't know how to go into the year 2024, I can see you're in the past. Her lowest calling is to seduce, separating man from his soul and leaving him aimlessly wandering. Now, here's how people like to twist shit about the goodness and the compassion of human beings. Okay, so one, learn about attachment trauma if you didn't. And FYI, I'm pretty sure that those who will be here will be like, yeah, we all know. Good. So the reason the shame button person who's the active teenager with the attitude, who's learned how to be proper, okay, by basically pretending though, because if he felt good about himself or she or they didn't need that. I don't need the clothes. I don't walk around with shame. Now, see, I'm, for example, a person who is shy about my body. So don't ask me to go around nude because I'll be like, oh. So that's called shame on the continuum, if I have to use the technical terms of when I learned about shame. And that's fair and square, but I'm going to say it's shy. I'm not ashamed. I'm just shy about it. It's not comfortable. Plus, it's private, even though I'll go with a bikini. And, you can see, right? So that's why it's like, that's an inconsistency. But long story short, I'm trying to lead us somewhere before we go. The way that they bring forth these ancient textbooks and then they continue to address them with the same time is what a person who's of this era will be like, okay, you're taking things out of context. I mean, I can follow what you're saying. I get it, but you getting it, the part about not texting a woman back, for example, of course, that's something you want to inform people of. The don't think a wedding bell is fucking yes, but they're not funny and they're not complete. This is not whole. You're giving me one, a gender stereotype and a societal stereotype. You are allowing basically nothing to change with what was from yesterday. You're not empowering, in my personal ears and brain's opinion, with what you just did. And in fact, all you're doing is perpetuating an adaptive child, narrow, rigid, unflexible state of consciousness, which is boring and false. And it has nothing to do with the essence of love in life, which is a generator of diversity and then basically intelligence. So anyone who's an actual spirituality of Holy Spirit and all, it's not the Holy Spirit in the way of the ancient textbooks. The word is not connected to the medieval times. And a person of faith will know this. We know it here, which is why I call bullshit. My ears, my eyes, no, you look so cute, 3-year-old, as you get your little crowds of lost boys, lost girls to follow you, and they're mesmerized by you. You're the one feminine that holds them all by a string. In fact, good boy, good girl, let me make sure to let you open my door so you find meaning. This woman actively, I tell my women, they need to have them have meaning because, men need meaning. Now, I have learned about neuroscience, the brain, man, brain, all that stuff. So I don't like gender stereotypes, and any stereotype for that matter, because it's one, a generalized way of thinking, which is dumb. And in fact, it is not meant to be used the way the masses use them. Generalized thinking is a way that people stay locked in when studies show their PTSD. So they get not over their trust breaks. Any smart ear and eyes and mouth and head would be able to be aware of what studies are for and how they work effectively. Well, wait a minute, Maria. You have a master's degree. Is it that? Well, maybe, maybe not. I have people who don't have a bachelor's and they know how to do the same analysis that I just did, which means they know how to take things, put them back into context, take them out, and they know how to play with information. And anyone who wants to teach you how to manipulate another person actively in a specific way, well, that tells you everything about them too. Because the way to talk to you about manipulation is that we all manipulate words. The intent is not provable. The intent is only going to be understandable if a person talks to you about it, and that's if they're self-aware. And most people that actively work with shame, they're not self-aware. In fact, they don't apologize. They don't know how to because they're ashamed of being their self. And they don't go and get self-aware, accountable, regulating with a good therapist so that they can then live an authentic. Let me be myself and let me know how to say I'm sorry. And let me hear myself and know, yeah. And how nice it is, FYI, when you're empowered. Because see, here's where I make a lot of fun and jokes. And remember that I don't know everything at all. but my tone, it goes through different types of expressions as I'm going to be continuing to chit chat with you all. So I like to try to be loving and soft and all that, but there's a part of me that gets serious at a certain point and very passionate, and I can get very in my tone. So, anyways, the story is that that one human being, the one who got in his whatever attitude of, am I not decent enough to be saluted? Okay, so my regular viewers, you know the story. And if you're new, the gist of it is this human being, they're drunk, they got rejected, they're having a shitty evening, and they're here in a place where I frequent. And for 3 whole years, I've consistently not saluted them, because in Italy we salute. I have consistently not talked to them. I have at best made small talk when they have approached me, and I have made it very clear that I am uninterested in making small talk. So I actively and consistently, you can call it snooting, that's not what I do. I am actively, consciously saying I don't want to engage with you. Now, I didn't realize that as a grown human being, you have to be friends with everyone. I don't agree with that. I don't have to be friends with everyone. I don't even have to want to be your acquaintance. I have had people, I'll never forget this. This is a funny story. I was at a party of family. These are all people that I don't know, but I'm with the person who's a family member, right? So I'm a guest with my friend who is with family. And we're at a table, we're eating, and I'm not chit-chatting yet with anyone. And I turn to the cousin, and I start to chit-chat as we're eating. And this person says something like, don't talk to me. Why are you talking to me? Like, their way was really upset. They were younger, and so they're in their teenage year. And I remember being a teenager and having to go to family events and be bored, you know, and have to sit there with all these old people. Because some people, they get us to all sit together. Other people, they get the kids all together, and that's fun, but not anyway. So I didn't take offense. I was like, okay, I'm going to turn it back. I'm so sorry. I thought you would want to talk, but okay. I turned around. That's it. And I didn't be like, oh my God, they're so rude. I did tell my friend, your cousin, interesting. I went to talk to them. They're really upset about something. So, you know, that's how grown up does it. It's not like, oh my God, I'm so sad. So, long story short, this human being apparently is not only not a teenager, they're a grown human being, and they made it their mission this evening that they're upset to point out that I don't engage with them, to leave the details out. And then once I saw them at another moment, I nodded to acknowledge their presence, but I did not salute them because I, Maria, know exactly who I am, what I want, and I have consistently communicated to you what I want, which is nothing to do with you. In fact, the evening actually ended where they tried to, again, wiggle their way in and say, we're going to become friends and talk. And then I said, no, we're not going to become friends. We're not going to do small talk. We're not even going to engage. We will be encountering ourselves, yes, because we frequent the same place. That is all that will happen. And they went to say, you're creating blocks. I see you block people out. No, I'm telling you how it's going to go. That's very straightforward. Healthy self-worth. We don't take offense. I can understand. So when I nodded my head, the person said, at least you nodded. As if they had taught me a lesson. As a teenager asshole, quote unquote, because only a teenager is going to do like, and I was a teenager. Oh, and also I'm a human, so I know how to do when I have a pissy thing in my foot, you know, a little rock. But you don't be like, oh my God, that's an awful person. Oh, Lucifer's all over that one. So, anyways, that's the part of where people in the mystic community, I didn't realize how awful, quote unquote, they would get. Is it really awful? They don't have healthy self-worth. They don't know being ordinary is so special. Look, anyone want to replicate you? They can't. They physically cannot. So here's what you learn from smart people. One, we have personality traits, not types. I love you, Dr. Daniel Siegel. I love Dr. Daniel Fox too, but I haven't had the honor to engage with him. Dr. Dan Siegel, he gets chased down the hallways by people. I don't know, that's funny. I don't get chased because I'm a witch. No, I'm not. I'm not a witch, but I'm a mystic. So, oh, it's so hilarious. Oh, anyways, no, that doesn't happen. Okay, I'm joking right now. Let me say goodbye to you so that we can have another episode, because I actively want to read to you a story that is going to be focusing on how looks mean shit. But let us dive into the fact that self-awareness, accountability, and regulation. So as long as you don't have a sense of self and your solo self, your narrative, relational, and core, if you don't have the love button yet, you want good therapy so that you can see you can soothe you can keep yourself safe and secure. And that's called a person who has healthy self-worth, because you get earned secure attachment, you heal trust breaks, trauma, any of that which can come up. And that's actively something positive for people who want to live functional adult love language life. And actively your body is looking to move into its restorative embodiment, because that's its origin according to attachment again and trauma researchers. And your brain also tries to heal from all that trauma memory stuff consistently, because you're biology, which doesn't mean you're not life, and it doesn't mean you don't need to believe in any of that which is from our faith as we grew up. They can't disprove God. They can't disprove consciousness. In fact, sciences studies consciousness. They look into it as the hard problem of consciousness. You can't disprove energy. So however you will twist it, a intelligent mind is one when you own it. Because that's the minute you can be your human name. Know that intelligence is something you acquire as you learn things, knowledge, you understand them, and then you embody it. And embodying wisdom and knowledge with the body means you don't know everything. You don't get arrogant and grandiose. But to get to fully welcome being ordinary, you will want to have healthy self-worth. It involves your 1-year-old and you being able to know that if somebody does this or this, that you won't be emotionally triggered to think that you are worthless or to feel worthless. But first you have to get to knowing you are not worthless here, which is why the self-soothing and the self-awareness and the self-everything seeing is you do it first. Then you're ready for mindful living, mindset, self-help. Until then, you're going to not be ready, one. And even when you do good therapy, this is what I've heard. I want I want life now. And there we have a teenager who's doing teenage stuff, but they're grown up. Or Zen master talks to you about laundry in the body. So, looking forward to being back with you with some more topics as your lovely woo-woo mystic lady here. So be back shortly. Like, share, and subscribe if you are enjoying, and if you know people who want to do self-help and mindful living and they enjoy mystic chit-chat integration, you can always ask questions if something I say is unclear or you're curious in a way of something. But remember, I give you my subjective experience. Also, I don't regurgitate material. I have a hard time remembering data. The data that I do remember, it's helpful for personal development. That's all my attachment trauma information. Mysticism, I bring to you my experiences, my channeling, the gist of what I've learned. I don't master any of that, which are stories, because I don't master them. They're actively not the way that you'll connect to your humanity. You, once you overflow with humanity, that's when divinity descends, because you're your own feminine. Your own feminine means your body. Your actual vehicle is yours with your mind, your masculine, and I'd say divine, because then I call this one the masculine, this one the feminine, for other episode to be continued. You also have an oversoul with divine masculine and masculines and twin flames. And no one can tell you what your story is, FYI. And anybody who lets somebody else, though, they are, again, following a leader. Somebody else knows more about themselves than they know about them. So the recent tidbit, which I could have told anybody about, but again, this is only for people who lose themselves. The twin flame is about remembering who you really are. You're unconditional love. I'm unconditional love. You actively and I are actively all children of the same God. It's not a vengeance one. And the vengeance one was really just about being able to be in that free will choice of, let me treat my herd members and let us continue to treat our ecosystem and do things with balance. And that darkness, that balance between this good and evil. No human is inherently good or evil, but the balance is actually of matter. It's an energetic balance. And it's not something that is explainable exactly, but I will do it this way. And then we'll cut off and I'll move into our next topic. I am a person who doesn't like to think of the fact that there is suffering because it makes me sad. And so I have a way that I get to experience my clairs personally. But the story that I have is because this thing happened. And it's one of those that actively showed me, a person who knows about this invisible balance of dark matter, dark energy, is how I'm going to equate it. It showed me that actively you will be given a way for your scale, those of us who are expanding piece of consciousness at least, always in balance. So I will take this, I will give you this. And that's actively what happened in this very specific day. This light bulb went off, and this piece of me got disconnected, if you will. But I got another piece that instead said, hey, and their light bulb is, here's a heart light bulb. This is what you are to me. And I'm getting this thing in the very same, like, not even 20 minutes apart from each other or something like that. And I'm like, wow, that's a funny thing because nothing's really taken away. But when we are a field of energy and we're connected, every part of us and those that we will have made connection deep with, so they're a part of your life. And that's why you will notice they left. They're not here anymore. This is a part of me, though. I know that that spot is not taken. It's just dark because the light went off. It was very sad. And it wasn't the only instance. There was other stuff, heartbreak between, fire and ice when that makes that type of feeling. And so imagine a heart, I compare that one to when Tinkerbell says and makes fun with Wendy. She says, when you say you don't believe in fairies, one dies, and she's doing this whole play. But it's basically like that. So part of you dying, if you will, it's not a part, it's that heart going through a transformation, but that's why it's not a dark night of soul. It's not ego death. It's not described by a 5D mystic as something mechanical. You're actively aware of the person that this is involving. When you're a person that's a feminine of your oversoul, so you're not treating it like something small, which is why when then you get that other piece, which is the same, so it's a different heart, but it's still the same spot. Nobody can replace it. They're always going to be in that spot. You're like, wow, okay, I got it, and that's something fun, and that's because the sadness and the love, they go hand in hand. It's always about connection. The spot doesn't get filled. It's just dark for now, meaning it's just offline. And then when we have spots that they're stagnating, they're still there. They're just on the peripheral. They're not doing anything anymore with their life. So anyways, this is how I'm describing right now my own oversoul. And then it goes to infinity and beyond. And we'll be back with another episode, actually. I'll share a little bit on that one. I want to get you a story. So thank you for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe. Again, I think I said that. I don't remember. But if you know anybody who wants to come and join us, let them know about the channel. Thank you again.